most watched news channel in Europe.
Hi, I'm John Malos. Welcome to this live edition of Connect with Me on the showroom floor at Ventura TV on this Wednesday morning. Today we're going to talk, well, we'll touch on religion and we'll touch on the Jewish state of Israel. How safe are Jews over in Europe and in this country? 436-ME-TV, option 11. Do call in. Back in a moment. And welcome back to the program. I'm glad you're here for this spiritual spectrum segment here on Connect with Me on MeTV Fresno today. As usual, my friends, you are watching us live on Comcast channel 187, 43.6 and 13.1. And of course, later in the day, you can catch us on videotape, as they used to say, on tape delay, 2 o'clock at 13.6 YouTube, 8 o'clock at night, 4.6 Biz TV, and of course the Twitter account is at John Malos Me TV. You can follow me on Twitter, although I need to update that. That is a fairly new account. So today we're talking about religion, we're talking about spiritual spectrum. That's kind of the focus here of the program. But I want to ask you a question right now. You know, there's a big debate raging in Europe right now. How safe are Jewish people who are living in Europe, all over Europe? There are some who believe after the recent terror killings over there that they are not very safe at all. I want to take you to the videotape, my friends. One of those people who believes that is Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, calling for all European Jews to move to Israel, declaring that Israel is the home of every Jew. A spike in violence against Jews across Europe began in early January. In the Paris attacks, 4 Jews were killed at a kosher deli by a terror gunman named Ahmedi Koulibaly. Earlier this month, a crazed gunman opened fire on a Copenhagen synagogue, killing a guard, wounding 2 policemen. This coming a day after attacking a seminar on free speech. Then the attack on as many as 300 graves at a Jewish cemetery in Paris. Those graves were desecrated. French officials are still searching for the assailants who broke tombstones, headstones in that cemetery, and again raising fears about a wave of anti-Semitic violence across the region. And in Great Britain, according to Scotland Yard, crimes against Jews nearly doubled a year ago to the tune of 297 hate crimes against Jewish people, and that figure was up from 153 in 2013. By contrast, crimes against Muslims actually dipped slightly. Live in our studio right now is Rabbi Rick Weiner to talk about this. He is from Temple Beth Israel here in the city of Fresno. He's been here for quite some time. In fact, he's been on our show before, so he's here to answer your questions and my questions, and you are free to call in at 436-ME-TV, option 11. We'll talk about Temple Beth Israel, the Jewish religion, the Jewish state, all of that coming up next here on Connect with Me. Back in a moment.
It's almost time.
Now we'll find out once and for all about Clark Kent and Superman.
Look up in the sky. It's a bird. It's a plane. It's a TV show.
Yes, but who is he? What's his name?
He's Superman.
Golly, Clark, won't that be wonderful seeing Superman?
Fighting a never-ending battle for truth, justice, and television the Me TV way.
No one can do the things that Superman does.
The adventures of Superman.
Now on MeTV Fresno, Xfinity 187.
Well, back here on the show, talking with Rabbi Rick Weiner, and good to see you again, Rabbi. How are you?
I'm good. It's good to be here, and I appreciate having the opportunity to come on. Thank you.
Well, thanks for your time. I really appreciate it. So let's get right to it. What do you think about some of these attacks that have taken place against Jews overseas, as mentioned in the monologue? And I do, I know we saw the videotape just a moment ago. I do want to roll the Copenhagen video again because that one caught everybody by surprise in Denmark. Did it catch you by surprise?
I don't know if I would say surprise. unfortunately, anti-Semitic violence has been, if not on the rise, at least more publicized, and so it's something that we are always vigilant of. It's been going on for certainly generations, and it's something that most Jews all around the world are normally keeping an eye out for. So it's disturbing to see what appears to be a rise in it. It's hard to tell whether it's an actual rise or whether it's a rise in reporting or a rise in the media attention to it. So it's hard to tell, but our security procedures continue to be used to thwart anything that comes up.
Do you think Jews around Europe are safe right now, or should the level of awareness be raised?
Well, the level of awareness should always be raised, because any group, including the Jewish community, that is subject to discriminatory attack needs to be vigilant. We've seen that here in America. My friends here locally at the Islamic Center had an attack recently that was extremely disturbing. And while it came from someone who was a Muslim, it doesn't change the fact that it was a hate crime, and it's something that needs to be, we need to keep aware of these things so that we can watch out for each other and make sure all of our communities are safe. But that being said, I mean, here in Fresno, violence that isn't religious is far greater. So here locally, we have all sorts of violence that we need to be trying to quell.
Yeah, gang violence specifically.
There's gang and other, yes.
Yeah, yeah. But getting back to the Copenhagen attack, I mean, why Denmark? I mean, of all places, I mean, kind of a quiet, out-of-the-way place. You wouldn't think that a terror attack on anybody would be, you know, the thing to do in Denmark. I don't know why.
Well, following the thread that they used to act as a catalyst for the attack, the Northern Europe has had a much freer media, which is certainly a good thing, but the criticism of the Islamic community in the media has been ongoing, and you
think that's a driving force?
Well, it's been used as it. It's no excuse for any violence. We hope that when people criticize in public, they do so in a way that is respectful at the same time. Certainly, the cartoonists, and this was really kind of the focus of the impetus for this attack.
Talking about Charlie Hebdo?
Yeah. Exactly, and so while that was used as a reason to spur the attack, it's again not an excuse. And my friends in the Islamic community have all come out and said that that kind of violence is unacceptable. The vast majority of the Islamic community abhors this kind of violence. Unfortunately, extremists are taking over the discussion, which doesn't do anyone any good.
And of course, that right there, we're looking at the aftermath of the shooting inside Charlie Hebdo, and we have some other photos there from there too. In fact, one of the after the shooting, one of the cartoonists actually drew a symbol of the Twin Towers, which you may or may not see here in a few minutes. But you know, Charlie Hebdo did not back down after the attacks. They kept going.
Well, the point of terror is to disrupt life, and so the response is to not allow life to be disrupted. Whether that is in New York following the attacks, whether that was in Northern Europe following the attacks, my friends living in Israel have had to go on with life after each of the attacks or attempted attacks that go on there.
Yeah, and in Paris, within a day or two here, the kosher deli, the shootout there by Mehdi Coulibaly, and you know, his girlfriend was associated with that, although she fled to Syria. Who knows if she hooked up with ISIS? That's part of the speculation. There's Mehdi Coulibaly right there,
right,
and his girlfriend, who apparently has slipped through the cracks here and disappeared someplace in Syria. Coulibaly died in that shootout in that kosher deli, and I want to talk about that, but I want to take you to the videotape and show you what happened that day in Paris at that deli shootout.
Visou, visou et rentre. Oh la vache, oh la vache. Qui voit l'image. Tu vois une fille, ça y est, il libère des otages, c'est fini. Je crois qu'ils l'ont vu. Bon, les gars, on passera pas la nuit.
Was this a direct attack, in your opinion, on Jews in that deli?
Well, when you target a Jewish deli, it's kind of hard to argue otherwise. So I'm sure this was not a random attack on a market. This was an attack on a Jewish business. So it was not an accident.
Yeah, it was deliberate, and 4 people unfortunately died in that deli. One person died in Denmark in that attack in Copenhagen. I believe it was a security guard at the synagogue. So in all, just in the past month, you've had 5 attacks on Jewish symbols, a kosher deli and a synagogue.
Well, and then of course the several of the employees at the Charlie Hebdo office were Jewish as well. So it's an attack on non-fundamentalist extremist views. So it's not just the Jews. We obviously are concerned about the unsettling feeling and attacks within the Jewish community, but it's really an attack on free speech, and it's an attack on the liberal view that one should be allowed to criticize another without fear of violent retribution.
Yeah, we're talking with Rabbi Rick Weiner of Temple Beth Israel here in the city of Fresno. You're urged to call in. We're talking about, of course, terrorism, not only against Jews, but Christians and all across the landscape, including here in the city of Fresno. We'll get back to the conversation in just a moment. Stay tuned.
When you like Ventura TV Appliance on Facebook, it's nice. But when you love the Whirlpool appliances we deliver, it's even better. Our website is cool, and it's a good place to start, but you really should touch the merchandise before you buy. Touch the new Whirlpool Ice Collection. It offers a modern style made to create an inspiring kitchen experience. Save big on this Whirlpool Black Ice or White Ice kitchen. Come in to Ventura TV Appliance and touch the merchandise today.
Back here on the program, and I'm glad you're with us here today. We're talking about, we're going to get to it. I mean, we have 45 minutes left in the show. We'll talk about the Jewish religion, and we'll talk about religion in general. And it seems like, this is beating an old dead horse to death again and again and again. That horse is dead, but we keep beating it. It just seems like since the beginning of time, many of these wars, in fact, if not all of them, have been about religion to a certain extent.
It's certainly a focus of a lot of strife, and those of us who are leaders within the religious community, especially within the liberal realm of religion, and when I say that, it's not about politics in right wing and left wing. Liberal religion is the sense that I don't necessarily have all the right answers, and my answers are not meant to be placed upon other people. What works for me works for me. What works for you works for you. It's kind of the basis of the interfaith community here locally, because we have so many people who have different fundamental beliefs, and yet the liberal view of our religion in that, yes, my beliefs are different, but I also believe in coming together with people of other religions, and so therefore we have a thriving interfaith activity here locally, and nothing to me is more gratifying than the interfaith work that goes on locally to improve our community. I focus mostly here in the Central Valley. I've watched even in the aftermath of these attacks that we've we've mentioned, that interfaith activity has gone on. So while certain things get the front page headline, often the aftermath that is positive doesn't. So for example, in Oslo, the Muslim community symbolically ringed the synagogue in order to provide security for the Jewish community worshiping inside. And this is not unique to any one community. Throughout the world, throughout time, there have been great examples of religious communities that will step up to go to bat for other religious communities. I mean, we were talking earlier before we came on air about the upcoming marking of the Armenian genocide. Certainly in the aftermath of the Holocaust in Eastern Europe and Europe, we saw so many examples of people risking their own lives to save other people from other religions, other ethnicities, other backgrounds, because it's just the right thing to do. It's unfortunate that the violence gets the major media,
the headlines.
While there are so many great examples of human beings lifting up and being good people. If we could get more focus on those kinds of things, then perhaps the model would lead to people acting in that way, as opposed to what we're seeing now is young people see whatever the allure of this ultra extremism is, and some of them go off to pursue that. That we don't want to see. We want to see people modeling and they are modeling and following the behaviors of people coming together in love, in friendship, in humanity, and making our world a better place.
But by the same token, in your, and I want to get the Jewish perspective here, how much, even after the Holocaust now, so many, I mean, how many years later, 60, 70 years later, how much hatred, in your opinion, is directed toward Jews, not only here in this country, but anywhere?
How much is something that I don't think we can quantify. We see it. It does happen.
How about the other question? Why?
Why is a really good question. If we had, so the semester that I took at the university on the history of anti-Semitism, we're not going to be able to boil down into
an hour show.
Just it's just not possible. However,
I've always asked that question, and I've never really gotten an answer, and I still don't know the answer.
Well, if you wanna do 2 hour-and-a-half sessions a week for a semester, we could probably cover it. There are some historical reasons that this is thrown into the fire, that anti-Semitism becomes an excuse for other things.
But does it date back centuries, maybe thousands of years?
Thousands would be, you know, I get kind of exacting on that. Centuries, absolutely, because already in medieval Europe, for example, you had issues of disparity that put people into difficult situations. Whenever you have economic crisis, you want to blame somebody else, even if it's your own fault. So, for example, in medieval Europe, the Christian community, by its own rules, was not allowed to loan to itself on interest. It's a biblical prohibition that you can't loan to someone from your own community with interest. And the Jewish community was not real eager to get into the position of loaning money, but a lot of the communities needed that in order to survive. The reason they weren't eager to get into it, yes, it was profitable, but it also led to bad relations. And so some people took advantage of it, and it became profitable. Take advantage in the sense of doing so. But what inevitably happened, as it does, and we saw it here in America with the recent recession, people end up taking too much credit. As much as some of us may say, you know, hey, buddy, I want to cut you off. No, I need to do it. And then in medieval Europe, especially, rather than defaulting on your loan, you would just burn the village in which the people who loaned the money were. And unfortunately, because Jews were not allowed to own land in much of that realm, their business was in the kinds of things like mercantile work or money loaning, and they would just have to up and leave.
So it's directly tied to finances and money?
Economics have a lot to do with it.
Even today?
Oh, absolutely. And it worries me today that, so one of the things that we're concentrating on here locally, and a group that I've been working with, Faith and Community, which brings together lots of different religious leaders and citizens, works on limiting how much that happens. Right here, you can just walk down the street here, you will see the payday lenders who, if you miss a couple payments, you soon find that you're dealing with over 400% interest. That can't
See, I
work.
thought the fight against Jews was over land.
Well, and this isn't about Jews. This is
I
about...
was talking about the hatred of Jews directed toward... I mean, is it about land or money? Or
no,
what
because in the Middle East, you're dealing with some land issues. Absolutely. Yeah. But throughout the world, it's not land because the Jews haven't owned land in Europe. Under medieval European rule, it was Jews could not own land. None of the minorities could.
So anywhere else but Israel, it's we have a phone call here. Anywhere else but Israel, it's not about land. It's about economics.
Economics is one thing, but you also have the mysteries of a religion that people don't understand, and it's not that mysterious.
Yeah. Hey, caller, you're there, I hope. Good morning.
Hi. Hello?
Yeah, you're on the air. Go ahead.
Okay. On Ion TV, there's a program that came on, and they showed that in Russia, people are so desperate and their economy is so bad that they're blaming the Jews for everything, and they're drawing swastikas on buildings and things. And they further showed something which I was very surprised, because I thought after they fought the war, World War II, that Russia was on the side of taking care of the Jews, but they have, according to the show, maintained them in the strictest amount of poverty. They give them such a low pension they can barely live off of it, and they're asking for donations from everybody to help feed them. So I was surprised, and I would like to know if any of this is really true, or if it was just, well, I was wondering if they put something on like that to get more donations. You know, sometimes people want to put on the show or something so they can get money. So I wanted to know, first of all, if Russia really is treating their Jews this way.
Good question.
And I guess that's about it.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, that would be the short answer. So the situation for the Jewish community, and I assume most religious minorities in Russia, is not good. The onset of the communist regime was anti-religion in general, and the situation for the Jewish community there has been very difficult. In the 80s, I remember a great movement where American Judaism worked hard to help get Russian Jews liberated from Russia. Once, when someone applied to leave Russia, a Jewish person applied, they would lose their job, they could be sent to Siberia, their family would lose their jobs. It was extremely difficult. I remember as a teen going to the Russian consulate in San Francisco and demonstrating, shouting, "Let our people go." Absolutely. And it's only in recent years that Russia allowed them to leave. Many of them went to Israel because that was a safe place that opened the doors, and there wasn't a quota. One of the things that's happened throughout history, especially modern life in America, has been the quotas. So when people were fleeing the Holocaust, they were turned away from America. Ships that escaped Germany came to America, were turned around, and had to go back, and those people died. Because at that time, England was ruling what was then known as Palestine, and they wouldn't allow the ships into that land either. So the Russians have since gotten the doors open much later and have come into Israel in massive numbers.
Okay, we're talking with Rabbi Rick Weiner of Temple Beth Israel here in Fresno. We'll get to more of the conversation in your phone calls. 436 MeTV, option 11. Call in, weigh in, back in a moment.
You can find movies on over-the-air channel 13.3. Movies. Our name says it all.
We'll talk more about terrorism in just a few moments and about the Jewish state of Israel, but I do want to talk to Rabbi Rick Weiner here about Temple Beth Israel for a moment, because the focus is today on religion. Tell us about Temple Beth Israel, the congregation, what you do in the community.
Absolutely. I'm relatively new to Temple Beth Israel in the Fresno community. This is my 4th year here, and I learned very quickly what a great history that we have here. The Jewish community has long been involved in the region and the Jewish imperative to help make the world a better place. So the congregation is a bit over 90 years old. Every congregation I know has arguments about exactly how old it is, so we're not exactly sure, but it's over 90 years old. It was downtown for many years, and as is normal with shifting population, it moved about 20 years ago to our present location.
Which is?
We're on Maroa, not far, just off of Herndon.
Okay.
And it's a beautiful campus. We have about 350 families in the congregation, which is moderate size for a Jewish community, but it's the largest synagogue in the Central Valley. As I said, it's over 90 years old, and we have people who have long been active in the community here. I learned that the first rabbi of the congregation, Rabbi David Greenberg, was very active in the community, and I'm really thrilled to be able to get back into that. So the congregation wanted me to be involved in the workings of the local community. I don't do politics, but some of what we do gets into the political realm, in that we're asking politicians to step up and do their jobs to help make this community a better place. So religion often pushes the community to do better. When religion is doing its job right, it's doing it to help improve the world for all of its inhabitants. And I think this community is a great example of that. In fact, this Sunday, we're going to dedicate the next Echo Shelter. This is a program helping house the homeless, and Temple Beth Israel raised the funds to build the next shelter, which Art Dyson has designed for us with sustainability, a top-notch architect who is really quite renowned, and it's a great project. We're glad to be a part of that.
You're from where, quickly?
I was born and raised in the Bay Area, the East Bay.
You're a Giants fan then?
Yes, I am. I grew up in A's territory,
yeah,
and when they started selling off the team in the after the '74 World Series season, some of us lost our loyalty. I'm still loyal to both of my Bay Area teams, but you know, I don't care who the affiliate is. We're Grizzlies fans.
Yeah.
Just got our season tickets. We love the park, and in fact, when I go there, I see a great deal of my Temple community there, so I could have board meetings right there.
Okay, this is going to sound like an idiotic question, like I just flew in from Mars, but I'm going to ask you this anyway because I want your opinion. So, what is the Jewish religion? What do you believe? Do you believe in the afterlife? What's the difference between, say, and maybe some people don't actually know this, the difference between Christianity and Judaism?
So this is not the semester course. That's like a full degree to get there.
Give me the minute answer. Don't you know? We've only got 30 minutes, so.
Judaism cannot be defined simply by a religion.
Okay. What
so
is it?
We have people within the Jewish community who consider themselves atheistic. They're still active, normal members of the Jewish community.
But they're atheists.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And they still are doing the good work of Judaism. Do we have a caller? Is that what it is?
Yeah. Can you pick up on that after the call? Caller, go ahead. You're on the air.
Yeah, personal question to the rabbi. I'm very interested in because I see a lot of, and I can tell when there's a Jewish because of their little cap, and but
I don't think they're called caps.
Is it harder for the young youth to adapt to the old generation as far as the Jewish, the prayers, the religion, and not have really the freedom to do as they want? You know, because a lot of the young people, even in America, they don't want to go to church. They want to do their own thing or whatever. And I don't know how the Jewish people are able to adapt to or teaching the young kids this is the way it is, and not force them to just pick, even though they're Jews, pick a religion as like Jewish, you know.
Right. Okay.
Because there's a lot of young people, you know, they want to have their own freedom.
Thank you.
And I think the old generation is adapted to their ways, you know. So they either force them to you know, do it their way, you know. And
all right.
And I don't say to kick them out or anything, but I think the younger generation has changed so much that they want to go on their own, or they want to listen to other kids their age.
It's a very good question. And it's unfortunate that we've got me on instead of my wife, who is also a rabbi. Her specialty is exactly that, youth engagement. She's an educator. Well, inspiring, but connecting. So, so as guides, our job is to, not just with youth, with any age, help them connect in a way that is meaningful for them. Fortunately, within the liberal Jewish community, we have a lot of we have a broad range of how people can engage. So it's not all just the old ways. There are some ancient practices that I think are beautiful and wonderful and can inspire our youth today. But we also have some wonderfully inspiring modern practices and such that work as well. And while they connect better with the youth than some things do, some of those same things really draw in adults as well. So it is something that we keep a good eye on.
I got to take a break, but I want to get more into the Jewish religion. Actually, we got a phone call, so let's take that real quick, and then we'll go to break here. Good morning, caller. You're on the air with the Rabbi, Rick Weiner.
Yeah, Rabbi, you're an awesome person. It's people like you that make this community awesome. It's the neat thing about Fresno and all the diverse communities. I was just kind of curious, and the question is, what do you think we could do as a community to make this a little better? I mean, we need to take all the Muslims, the Christians, and the Jews and get us all together and just appreciate, understand, and respect each other's differences. How would we go about that in your ideas, or what kind of idea could you come up with on that?
Thank you.
So, as I said, you know, here in town, I'm doing a lot of interfaith work, and I've actually found myself in church more often than I had in the past, because I have more and more friends who lead some wonderful churches here. I've been.
Now, wait a minute. Let's clarify.
Church, not synagogue.
You said church, not synagogue,
exactly.
not temple.
Well, it makes it easier
why
because.
Church?
Because my services are on Friday evening. That's when the synagogue is. My friends' church programs are on Sunday.
Okay.
Now, when I go there and they're preaching about Jesus, who historically was a nice Jewish boy, their belief is not exactly the same as mine.
Right.
But when we get so we left their church, for example, and we went out and did one of the night walks.
Right.
We walked around their neighborhood in order to help quell violence, and it didn't matter what color, what religion, what ethnicity one was. We are in the business of improving our community. For some people, Jesus inspires them to make the world better. For my community, the tradition of Torah and Judaism does. In the Hindu community, the teachings of their tradition, the Buddhist community, the Muslim community, every leader I've worked with here in the Valley, and it is a vast array, is all interested in making our community a better place and making our world a better place. We have no difficulty getting along. When you see the religious leaders come together And so, for example, I'm looking at, you've got a news clipping up here about the loss of Janessa, which was a tragic killing here in our community. I went out to be there with the community. I ran into my friends from the Christian leadership as well as the Muslim leadership. And sometimes you see this on the news cameras, you see us see each other and hug. That's not for the camera. Yeah. The local religious leadership honestly really likes each other. So if that can alone serve as a model, you don't even have to go to the hard work that we're doing to better our community. But if you just simply look and see that whenever the religious leadership comes here together, we really enjoy being being together with each other. Those hugs are real. If we can do it, and it's not even an effort, we really do like each other, then I would hope that other people could put down whatever it is that they've got in their upbringing that says just because that person is different, I should not like them. Because that person is different, I celebrate what they bring to the table and make our world a much more interesting place. If everybody was like me, it would be really boring. But because we have different traditions and they can and do work together, then we have a beautiful tapestry that we weave together.
Yeah. Okay, we're talking with Rabbi Rick Weiner. Well said, well put, very articulate. We're going to continue the conversation here talking about Temple Beth Israel and other Jewish issues. Hey, issues in general. It doesn't have to be about the Jewish religion per se, but any religion. We're going to be back with our program, 436-MeTV, option 11, in just a moment.
Ventura TV Appliance Center. We're the save energy, save time, save money place. The Energy Star qualified #1 rated high-efficiency Cabrio from Whirlpool Place. You heard right. Right now, save big on select Whirlpool Cabrio laundry pairs and pay no interest when paid in full within 6 months. At the hometown low price, think outside the big box place. Since 1951, Ventura TV Appliance Center. We're working hard to be your place.
We're back here on the program today. Connect with me. We're talking about religion. So getting back to the question before we had the call, and that is the Jewish religion. Explain, if you can, in 30 seconds, what is the Jewish religion? What do you believe? You don't believe in Jesus, obviously, as the Savior or the Messiah. The Messiah.
Right, right. So
is that the only difference between the Christians and the Jews?
No.
Okay.
Once again, we're talking about entire semesters of that, and yes, it's a broad spectrum. You know, within the Christian community, you've got a huge spectrum of belief and differences and all sorts of different cultures and groups. And within the Jewish spectrum, you do as well. It's very wide. What I think is important to understand is Judaism is not simply a religion. It can't be defined as a religion. It can't be defined as a nation. It cannot be defined as an ethnicity or race. One of the things that
what is it then?
Exactly. I used to describe it as peoplehood.
It's an ethnic group, right?
No, it's not an ethnic group.
It's not even
because
an ethnic,
when you go into Israel today and you see the Jews from Ethiopia, the Jews from Yemen and Morocco, the Jews from Northern Europe, the Jews from America, you have a whole different variety of ethnic groups that come together, and they're all Jewish.
When I went to Greece, there were Jews in Greece.
We have one of the members of my community here comes from the Greek Jewish community. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so you have a wide variety of Jewish ethnicities. You have a wide variety of Jewish beliefs. Mm-hmm. Judaism is not a monolithic belief system, so there is a wide variety of it. Very recently, I saw an article on describing it more as a tribe, which is really quite apropos since it grows out of the 12 tribes. And a tribe is a good way of understanding it, because within a tribe, one can come in and out. You don't have to have the same exact beliefs, but there is a common bond that brings you together.
We got a phone call here. All right, caller, you're on the air. Quickly, what's your comment? What's your question?
Would it be fair to call Judaism a lifestyle?
Well, then, once again, then it would be which lifestyle. So my lifestyle is extremely different than my ultra-Orthodox colleagues. My lifestyle here in Fresno is very different than the lifestyle of a Jew in Manhattan or Los Angeles. So,
and what's a Hasidic Jew?
Hasidic is, when I say ultra-Orthodox, that usually refers to Hasidic. You'll see them commonly with the black hats and the side curls and beards. And within the Hasidic world, the ultra-Orthodox, because they're not all Hasidic, some of them look like they are, but they're not. Within that world, you have a huge variety as well.
And quickly, what does it mean to eat kosher? Like if you go to a kosher deli, you want to get some, I buy kosher hot dogs for my kids.
Which
They're
is a
kosher.
good idea, because if you're not buying kosher hot dogs, you have no idea what some of the ingredients are. Some of those acceptable bug parts that the USDA allows is not acceptable in kosher. So kosher, again, is quite a variety of things, but that is a lifestyle. That is those who choose to eat kosher, and our local Jewish community certainly not.
Does that mean eating healthy?
No. It means not eating pork, not eating shellfish, not mixing dairy products and meat products. There are quite a few other things that go with it, but those are some of the basics.
All right, I want to get to the state of Israel here, and I appreciate you being here and talking about Temple Beth Israel, but I do want to get to some of the stuff going on overseas. I want to roll the videotape of the Gaza Strip. Obviously, about 8 months ago, it was last summer, Israel went to war with Gaza. You might say for quite a long stretch there, many weeks. This is after you had 3 Jewish students that were killed on the West Bank. This led to bombings, rocket attacks from the Gaza. Some 3,500 rockets launched into Israel. The question to you is Israel fighting for its survival right now, in your opinion?
So I'm going to get real careful because we're dangerously getting into politics here. When it comes to survival, absolutely. Historically, the state of Israel has been surrounded by communities that have said publicly, we want to wipe Israel off the map. That being said,
well, Hamas has said that. Hezbollah has.
Well, no. The countries surrounding it did. Now,
many of the countries around it have really made that statement.
At one point, they all did. Now, that's not the way it stands today. So there's a good partnership with Jordan. There's a good partnership with Egypt, even while Egypt is going through its own internal turmoil.
What about Syria?
Syria and Israel do not get along well. Lebanon and Israel don't get along well. And a lot of that, as you say, has to do with the extremist elements within. Jordan and Egypt have both found that maintaining a peace with Israel, again, they disagree on a whole lot of things, but it's economically beneficial for them to get along.
But here's the thing. Israel responded after the 3 students were killed, believing that Hamas caused this, so they launched attacks of their own, not on civilian population, but on military-type targets. And also, Israel claims that Hamas built these tunnels, underground tunnels leading into Israel, and they were basically suicide bomber tunnels.
Well, they didn't have to claim it. Hamas had their own footage showing that they
built those tunnels.
Built the tunnels.
Yeah,
it's not just about suicide attacks, it's also about kidnapping. So one of their goals, one of the extremist goals, is to kidnap Israeli soldiers.
They're called death squads that go into tunnels.
They have different groups that do it, and it was a huge network of tunnels that were there. It would be ideal if the moderate elements in Gaza and the West Bank were to have control and could come together with the moderate elements of Israel and make functioning agreements. We have not succeeded in that yet.
After the 1967 war, the boundaries changed in Israel, and I know this gets into a touchy, kind of a gray area, but after the 1967 war, Israel kind of took control of the West Bank, kind of took control of Gaza, and that West Bank sits
Not
on
kind of. They took control.
They took control.
And they did it for security reasons.
Right. They did it for security. Where do we stand today? Do they kind of control it, or is it kind of a gray area right now?
Well, I would say it's absolutely a gray area. Most of us would love to see absolute autonomy for the populations within Gaza and the West Bank. The challenge is having autonomy there, having complete self-determination for the populations within Gaza and the West Bank, and ensuring safety and security for the Israeli citizens at the same time. So
why is
it's
it
a tough
important
balance.
to secure Israel for
well,
us?
Nobody wants to be killed. Well, most people don't want to be killed.
But
so,
for the United States,
for the United States, well,
to protect Israel.
Israel
Why?
is the one, the one stable democracy in the Middle East, and therefore it has been a good partnership with the United States.
All right, caller, quickly, short on time. Go ahead. Your question.
Good morning. At the beginning of the show, the guest was stating that there was a hate crime committed on a mosque by a Muslim. How could it be a hate crime when it's the same ethnicity and or faith? I don't get that. I mean,
that's an important question, and I was educated in this because when we heard in the media that that it was a great relief to the community that this wasn't an external attack, I learned from my friends at the Islamic Center here that it was there was a significant disagreement between the person who made the attack and the community that he attacked. So internally, this was hate from one style of Islamic sentiment to another. So it was my friends at the Islamic Center who labeled it that, and I respect their determination. So I understand the question. I think it's a good question, but I'm going to respect their determination that because this was a vehement and violent disagreement internally, it should be classified as a hate crime.
Okay.
Whether you think
okay, do we have to go to break? We do. Okay, back in just a moment. 436 MeTV, option 11. I'm going to play some sound bites from the Israeli Prime Minister when we come back.
The Ballad of Andy and Barney. Andy and Barney were lawmen, bravest you ever did see. Warned every crook in the record book to stay out of Mayberry. They were the law.
Yes, they were the law, and they didn't know fear.
The Andy Griffith Show.
I guess to sum it up, you could say there's 3 reasons why there's so little crime in Mayberry. There's Andy, and there's me, and baby makes 3.
Now on MeTV Fresno.
Back here on the program, you know, recently, well, about 4 months ago, I don't know how recent that is, 4 to 5 months ago, Benjamin Netanyahu, he is the Israeli Prime Minister, he spoke at the UN Security Council and he addressed militant Islam. The ultimate goal, according to Benjamin Netanyahu, is that militant Islam wants to rule and control and dominate the world. Here's what he said.
Ladies and gentlemen, the people of Israel pray for peace. But our hopes and the world's hopes for peace are in danger because everywhere we look, militant Islam is on the march. It's not militants, it's not Islam, it's militant Islam. And typically, its first victims are other Muslims, but it spares no one. Christians, Jews, Yazidis, Kurds, no creed, no faith, no ethnic group is beyond its sights. And it's rapidly spreading in every part of the world.
Quick comment from you, Rabbi. Are we at war with Islam?
Oh, well, absolutely not, because just as Netanyahu was saying in the clip, this isn't about Islam. This is about, he was saying militant Islam. There are extremists within Islam. There are extremists within every culture who take the agenda of the general population and pull it off of where it needs to be. So to say we're at war with Islam is really problematic, because here in America, even in the Middle East, there are many, probably the majority with the Islamic community, who are working towards moderate, peaceful solutions.
Another soundbite with Benjamin Netanyahu. He compares ISIS and Hamas together. He puts them both in the same pot and says they're one and the same because they have one goal in mind. That is to destroy Israel.
Last week, many of the countries represented here rightly applauded President Obama for leading the effort to confront ISIS. And yet, weeks before, some of these same countries, the same countries that now support confronting ISIS, opposed Israel for confronting Hamas. They evidently don't understand that ISIS and Hamas are branches of the same poisonous tree. ISIS and Hamas share a fanatical creed, which they both seek to impose well beyond the territory under their control. Listen to ISIS' self-declared caliph, Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi. This is what he said 2 months ago. A day will soon come when the Muslim will walk everywhere as a master. The Muslims will cause the world to hear and understand the meaning of terrorism and destroy the idol of democracy. Now listen to Khalid Mashal, the leader of Hamas. He proclaims a similar vision of the future. We say this to the West: by Allah, you will be defeated. Tomorrow, our nation will sit on the throne of the world.
Also, I want to get your comment, but I want to play another soundbite from Netanyahu. He's saying that militant Islam is exactly as Nazi Germany was in the 40s. There's a comparison.
Ladies and gentlemen, militant Islam's ambition to dominate the world seems mad. But so too did the global ambitions of another fanatic ideology that swept into power 8 decades ago. The Nazis believed in a master race. The militant Islamists believe in a master faith. They just disagree who among them will be the master of the master faith. That's what they truly disagree about. And therefore, the question before us is whether militant Islam will have the power to realize its unbridled ambitions.
Okay, quickly, if you can, Rabbi. ISIS and Hamas want to destroy Israel. Militant Islam is just like Nazi Germany.
Was that a question?
Yeah, I just want to get your reaction, that coming from Netanyahu.
What I'll comment on is that since his speech, we've seen and heard more Islamic leaders come out and say how these elements are distorting true Islam. They're misinterpreting its belief and tradition and distorting it to use for inappropriate violent purposes.
Was he speaking out of turn there a little bit?
No, he's, and clearly his words were very carefully crafted and I think accurate when we consider that we're talking about extremist elements. Most of the people that we deal with, many of the nations that we're dealing with, are either not extremist or don't want to be. So internally within the Islamic community, there are many nations that are having more frustrations with the Islamic elements, with the extremist, elements within.
Quickly, caller, very short on time. What's your question?
Yes, forgive me, I've missed some of much of your program, but the issue of Netanyahu's visit has apparently come up to the speaking to Congress.
Yep.
There are many American Jews, many Democrats that feel that Netanyahu will not be allowed to drag America into a war with Iran. When I listen to Netanyahu, the only thing I think of is what is in America's best interest. And it is not in America's interest to stay in these eternal conflicts. It's not in America's interest to have war with Iran. We have to figure out a way to get along with Iran, and we should not help Israel attack Iran.
I'm glad you called, caller. That is a very good point. Benjamin Netanyahu will address Congress on March the 3rd. That is next week. Some Senate Democrats say they are going to sit this one out. Netanyahu declined to meet with Senator Dianne Feinstein of California. Now, I want to play the last soundbite number 5 there, Lauren, where Benjamin Netanyahu addressed the UN Security Council talking about Iran and the nuclear bomb.
So don't be fooled by Iran's manipulative charm offensive. It's designed for one purpose, and for one purpose only: to lift the sanctions and remove the obstacles to Iran's path to the bomb. The Islamic Republic is now trying to bamboozle its way to an agreement that will remove the sanctions it still faces and leave it with the capacity of thousands of centrifuges, to enrich uranium. This would effectively cement Iran's place as a threshold military nuclear power. And in the future, at the time of its choosing, Iran, the world's most dangerous regime, in the world's most dangerous region, would obtain the world's most dangerous weapons.
The bomb, the nuclear bomb. 2 questions for you, Rabbi. We've only got a couple of minutes left. The caller, should the U.S. be dragged into a war with Iran? And the second part of that question is, what do you think about his speech to Congress that will take place March the 3rd next week?
I'm not going to get into the political side of it. What I will say is that clearly this speech is mired in politics, and the caller's observation that this is complicated in politics, and that there's a great disagreement on whether or not he should or should speak. There's a great disagreement on how exactly America's partnership with Israel should proceed with Iran. Now we're in the realm of politics that is divisive and problematic, and I'm going to let the politicians hammer that one out. I'm going to try to stay out of it.
Yeah, we're getting some calls on this, although we're out of time. But, you know, to say the least, I think the president's relationship with Benjamin Netanyahu in Israel has been chilly at best during his regime. Would you agree with that, at least?
So to understand the spectrum, Netanyahu is from a similar camp as someone like Boehner. And clearly Boehner and President Obama have a chilly relationship.
Yeah.
So to expect a warm, friendly relationship between Obama and Netanyahu would be naive. However, I would say that the productive work between Israel and the United States is better than the work between our different political sides here in America.
We got about 20 seconds left, but I do want to say, in Benjamin Netanyahu's defense, their caller, he's trying to protect Israel, and rightly so. And if you get a chance, go over to the Holy Land. It's a beautiful place. Put politics out of your mind. Go over there and enjoy the people, enjoy the food, and the history revolving around the Middle East. Rabbi Rick Reiner, you're a great guest. I want you to come back. Thank you, sir, for all you're doing for the community. I appreciate it.
Absolutely.
All right. Rabbi Rick Weiner of Temple Beth Israel, our guest today. Thank you for his time. See you back here again tomorrow. Another edition. Hey, Jackie Parks, the president of the Fresno Police Officers Association, will be here along with a member of the Fresno City Unified School Board. See you tomorrow.
Retro TV, your home for classic television. The greatest shows in history are here for you to enjoy. Join Cosby and Colt as secret agent men in I Spy. Ride along the Ponderosa with the Cartwrights in Bonanza. Hit the beat with Joe Friday in Dragnet. And that's not all. Retro TV offers endless fun and excitement for the whole family to enjoy. Retro TV, the best in classic television.
You can find Retro TV on over-the-air channel 13.4.